I'm unfortunately a person who can't get anything done that I need to without having it planned or written down in some way. I've simplified how I plan my week in a way that works for me. I wanted to share that today in a video to hopefully provide some value for those looking to do the same. And I'm going to go through everything using my iPad mini just because that's my preferred way of planning. But the beauty of the Notes app is that it syncs with my phone and my laptop, so I can access any part of my routine from those devices as well. My weekly planning routine is very simple. It really just consists of a few folders and some bullet points that I check off throughout the day, with some details added if I need to. Because the really sophisticated planners or planning apps just never really clicked with me. I still believe they have their time and place, but when it comes to my daily routine, I obviously want to keep it as simple as I can. And so I took that into consideration when building my routine, and then eventually made that the core focus of how I design my week. As simple as possible and manageable. Here's how I plan my week using Apple Notes. But first, if you're new to my channel, thank you for stopping by. Here we talk about minimalism, frugal living, tech, and things of that nature. So if that sounds good to you, and you end up liking the video, be sure to like, and please put a bat weevil in the subscribe button's bed. Let's get started. Why I use the iPad mini for planning. Just to briefly go through why I even use the iPad mini in the first place, are mainly the reasons like its portability, which I can go into when I talk about this for a more technical video, but considering its size and use cases, it's really similar to the size of my physical planner that I once used, and its application as a digital planner. While I did love having a physical planner, things like writing and erasing any changes I had to make and running out of space happened often. And while I mostly use my Apple Pencil for sketching and animating, being able to draw things in my Notes app and make annotations is sometimes rather useful. And like I previously mentioned, the fact that my Notes app syncs with my other devices is just so convenient. And if I'm out and about and need to check something off my to-do list or just glance at it, it syncs with my phone, making it that much easier. And while this is me using my iPad mini on Apple Notes, I think the general idea here will work across any weekly planning routine, specifically because of how simple it is. My weekly planning typically begins on Sundays, and that's when I'll write down everything I have to do on any specific day I have to or plan on doing it. If I don't have any idea when a task will be able to be done, or maybe I'm waiting on some information relevant to that task, I'll usually just brain dump all of that into the standard pre-made notes folder within the Notes app. Stuff might get added here when I'm not home or when I don't have time to properly schedule it or plan it out, so I take some time on Sundays to do exactly that. Once everything here is organized and assigned a day of the week to complete, I'll just delete the entire note. Essentially, this just acts as sort of a brain dump sticky note to come back to and organize on Sundays when I have time. But zooming out just a little bit, I have a folder that is simply called Weekly, and inside that folder is a note that is a list of every single day of the week. Under each day of the week, I have a bullet point list of around 2 to 5 things I need to get done that day. And instead of writing full sentences, I keep task names short and to the point unless I need to add any details. For example, if I have groceries written down on a specific day and I need to remember to return the salsa because it tasted like poison, I'll write return salsa in parentheses next to it. This gives me all the information I need, reminding me what I have to do, all in just 3 words. I know this might sound silly, but writing down less words for a task makes it seem a little less serious, even if it's something serious I have to do, and makes me a little bit less stressed about whatever it is. That being said, some tasks are just more important than others, or they're time sensitive and can't be moved to a different day. So for those things, I'll make some changes to the text to make them stand out and remind me that they are priority. For example, if I have a haircut on Tuesday, it's scheduled for a specific time and can't be easily moved to a different day. Sometimes I'll add an hourglass or a clock emoji to remind me it's a time-sensitive thing to do. And in that same realm, I actually do occasionally like putting emojis in front of a thing I have to do, because sometimes an emoji related to a task will trigger my memory and remind me instantly what it is I have to do without even reading the rest of the sentence. Like changing my Wednesday task to just a volleyball emoji. This isn't a huge change, but for me, it's little things like this that make so many of my to-do list tasks feel less like a wall of text and something I can quickly process and act on. And I keep the list of things I have to do generally small as to make sure I can get it all done. Meaning that I won't write down the super obvious tasks or things that I do every single day here, just the tasks that I would probably forget about if they weren't written down. And as I go throughout my day completing these things, I'll simply open up the list in my notes and check them off as I go. I've also been trying to use the calendar app a little bit to see if it's useful for me. And if I put a time or date down next to something on my to-do list, I can add it straight to my calendar automatically for that time and day. And while this whole thing might seem overly simplified, that's probably because it is. Having my entire day planned out hour by hour and filled to the brim with things I have to do was never really how I liked to do it. And this bullet point checklist keeps it as about serious as I want it to be and as manageable as I can handle. I think if I were working on a big project that had a ton of minor details or even other people collaborating on this, Notion or something similar might be more suited for that. But for a simple weekly personal to-do list, this is perfect. When there is a day I still can't get everything done and checked off, or I anticipate not being able to take care of everything, I'll typically reschedule a task for a day later in the week if possible. I can just press and hold the bubble and drag it onto a day later in the week. But the one thing that I've definitely noticed is since I'm only putting the most important, non-routine to-dos on my list, they're likely the main focuses for that day. And lastly, just going into why this system works for me. I've tried more sophisticated planning systems, but they've always just felt like extra work and frankly unnecessary. This fits naturally into my day without feeling like I'm planning every single little detail, because I remember back in the day thinking busy equaled productive, and my method of weekly planning is the direct opposite of that. Everyone has different ways of staying organized, and what works for me might not work for you exactly, but I think the key is finding a system that feels natural and easy to maintain over the long run. And I still think the simpler, the better is a good rule of thumb to start with. Some days don't go as planned, and that's okay. This system lets me adjust without feeling like I've failed my schedule. And that pretty much sums up how I plan just a regular week on the Notes app with my iPad mini. I hope you got some value or inspiration for your own weekly planning. And let me know in the comments if you have any suggestions or things I could touch up that might make more sense for my own routine. Anyways, as always, I appreciate the time you spent here and I appreciate you watching. If you did like this video and you like this type of content, be sure to like and consider subscribing to my channel, and I'll see you next time.